Vincent Cole's ship rattled as it passed through the docking bay shields. He barely noticed anymore. 20 years of flying through worse conditions had taught him to ignore the small problems and focus on the big ones. Right now, the big problem was money. He was down to his last 3,000 credits, and fuel alone cost 2,000 to get here. Refuge Station Omega sprawled before him like a metal flower blooming in the void. Dozens of different alien species had built their own sections over the centuries, each one reflecting their unique architectural styles. The result was beautiful chaos. Vincent had been here twice before, both times for jobs that paid well enough to keep him flying for another year. He guided his frigate into Docking Bay 17 and shut down the engines. Through the viewport, he could see aliens of every shape and size moving about their business. Tall ones, short ones with too many legs and ones that seemed to float without any legs at all. Humanity had joined the galactic community only 30 years ago, and sometimes Vincent still felt like the new kid at school. His communicator blinked. A text message from his contact, Bay 17, 1 hour. Come alone. Vincent grabbed his jacket from the back of his seat and checked his sidearm. The weapon was human-made, reliable, and had saved his life more times than he could count. Station regulations required all weapons to be locked during the customs scan, but he could retrieve it on the other side. He sealed his ship and headed toward the main customs entrance. The walk through the docking bay gave him time to observe. Security seemed tighter than his last visit. More guards, more checkpoints, more nervous energy in the air. Something had the station authorities worried. Vincent made a mental note to ask his contact about it. Customs processing occupied a massive hall that could handle hundreds of arrivals simultaneously. Vincent joined the shortest line, which still had about 20 beings ahead of him. Most were merchants or traders, their clothing marking them as members of various commercial guilds. A few looked like tourists, carrying bags covered in station stamps from other ports. The line moved slowly. Each person passed through a tall archway that glowed with soft blue light. On the other side, insectoid creatures with delicate movements processed paperwork and checked credentials. Vincent recognized them as mothers, a species known throughout the galaxy for their bureaucratic efficiency and obsessive attention to detail. When his turn came, Vincent stepped up to the archway. A mother guard gestured for him to proceed. Its translator device spoke in flat, emotionless tones. Walk through slowly. Do not stop. Do not run. Vincent did as instructed. The blue light washed over him, warm and tingly. He'd been through dozens of these scanners on different stations. Usually they took 5 seconds to process and cleared him without issue. This time was different. The light turned from blue to yellow, then to orange. Warning sounds began to chirp from the control panels. Vincent stopped on the other side of the archway and waited. 3 mother guards converged on his position, their mandibles clicking in rapid conversation. One of them, slightly larger than the others, stepped forward. Its name tag identified it as Pitch. Remove jacket. Secondary scan required. Vincent shrugged off his jacket and handed it to another guard. Pitch produced a handheld scanner and began moving it over Vincent's body. When it passed over his arms, the device started beeping faster. Pitch's antennae twitched. Explain markings. Vincent glanced down at his arms. Tattoos covered nearly every inch of exposed skin, running up to his neck and disappearing under his shirt. Each one was different, a complex pattern of symbols and numbers that most aliens wouldn't recognize as anything meaningful. They're tattoos. Decorative body art. Humans do it for personal reasons. Pitch wasn't satisfied. The scanner was going crazy now, beeping so fast it created a single sustained tone. The mother guard tapped several commands into a nearby terminal. A holographic display materialized in the air, showing data streaming faster than Vincent could read. Then everything went wrong. Red warning lights flooded the customs hall. Alarms blared from every direction. The holographic display flickered and showed a message in massive letters. Deceased count calculating. Error. Limit exceeded. Every screen in the customs area went dark. The blue scanning archways shut down. Even the lights dimmed for a moment before emergency backup systems kicked in. Pitch stared at Vincent with compound eyes that seemed to reflect genuine shock. Around them, dozens of other guards were rushing toward their position. Vincent could hear shouting in multiple languages, translated into a confusion of warnings and questions. What did you do? Pitch's translator made the question sound like an accusation. Vincent held up his hand slowly, making sure everyone could see he wasn't reaching for a weapon. I walked through your scanner. That's all. More guards arrived, forming a loose circle around him. Vincent counted at least 15 different species, all armed with various types of weapons. Some he recognized. Others were completely foreign. None of them looked happy. A tall reptilian being pushed through the crowd. Its scales were deep green with red markings along its crest. Vincent recognized the species, scythes, warriors by nature and reputation. This one wore a commander's insignia on its uniform. "I am Commander Iris, you will come with me now." It wasn't a request. Vincent retrieved his jacket from the stunned mother guard and followed Iris toward a side corridor. Behind them, technicians were already working on the crashed systems, their voices rising in frustrated confusion. As they walked, Vincent could feel the stares of hundreds of aliens watching him. Word was spreading fast. The human who broke the scanner. The human who crashed the custom system. The human with something hidden in his skin. Vincent had wanted to slip in quietly, meet his contact, and slip out again. That plan was completely destroyed now. Whatever happened next, his life had just gotten a lot more complicated. The holding room had no windows and only one door. Vincent sat in a chair that was designed for someone with a different body structure, making it uncomfortable in ways regular chairs never managed. Commander Iris stood across from him, studying a datapad with intense focus. 2 guards flanked the door, weapons ready but not aimed. Yet Iris finally looked up from the datapad. Her reptilian features made it hard for Vincent to read her expressions, but her tone carried enough meaning. "Your file is interesting, Vincent Cole, age 47. Former Earth Colonial Marine, service record spans 15 years across 3 major conflicts. Multiple decorations. Multiple disciplinary actions. Honorably discharged 8 years ago. Since then you have worked as private security, courier, and occasional bounty hunter." Vincent said nothing. Everything she listed was public record, available to anyone with basic database access. Iris continued, "What is not in your file is an explanation for why our security system crashed when it scanned you. The technicians managed to recover the data before the system purged itself. Would you like to know what they found? I assume you're going to tell me regardless of whether I want to know." 347. Vincent kept his face neutral. He knew what that number represented. The question was how much detail the system had extracted. Iris set down the datapad and leaned forward slightly. "Our scanners are designed to read biological markers, chemical signatures, and technological implants. Your tattoos contain microscopic data tags embedded in the ink, military-grade encoding. Each tag represents a confirmed kill. The system tried to process all of them simultaneously and exceeded its threat assessment parameters. No individual in our database has ever registered more than 73 confirmed kills, and that was a war criminal we executed 10 years ago." The room felt smaller suddenly. Vincent could see the calculation happening behind Iris's eyes. Threat assessment. Risk analysis. The decision between treating him as a danger or as a curiosity. "We don't kill each other the way you do," Vincent said quietly. "Humans, I mean. We've been fighting wars for thousands of years before we ever left our planet. It's not something we're proud of, but it's what we know. Those tattoos aren't decorations. They're reminders. Reminders of what? That every number was a person. That every choice had consequences. That I survived when others didn't." Iris picked up the datapad again and scrolled through more information. "Your tattoos only account for confirmed kills during official military operations. They don't include classified missions or unconfirmed casualties. The actual number could be significantly higher." Vincent didn't confirm or deny it. Some things weren't recorded anywhere, not even on his skin. A soft chime interrupted them. The door opened and a new alien entered. This one was shorter, with pale gray skin and large eyes that seemed to take up half its face. It wore simple robes and carried a recording device. "Commander Iris, forgive the intrusion. I am Dell, Senior Archivist with the Historical Preservation Guild. I formally request permission to interview this human for our records." Iris's head tilted slightly. "This is a security matter, Archivist. Your request is denied." Dell didn't back down. "With respect, Commander, this is precisely why my request should be approved. The galactic community has limited understanding of human conflict history. If we are to properly integrate humanity into our civilization, we must understand their past. This individual represents a unique opportunity for education. This individual represents a potential threat." Only if we treat him as one. Vincent watched the exchange with mild amusement. Del belonged to the Pale Folk, a species he'd encountered before. They were scholars and historians, obsessed with documenting everything and everyone. Mostly harmless, usually annoying, but occasionally useful. Iris considered for a long moment, then gestured to the guard. 5 minutes. Recorded and monitored. Any sign of collusion or planning and you're both detained. Del's face lit up with what Vincent assumed was joy. The archivist settled into another uncomfortable chair and activated the recording device. Thank you, Commander. Now, Vincent Cole, can you explain how a single human accumulates such a significant casualty count? In galactic terms, the average military career involves perhaps 3 to 5 combat fatalities. Even our most decorated warriors rarely exceed 20. Vincent thought about how to answer that. How do you explain human history to someone whose species had maybe a dozen wars in their entire existence? Humans fight differently than you do. We fight in large numbers with weapons designed for maximum efficiency. Our wars don't last weeks or months. They last years, sometimes decades. Soldiers don't fight in single combat. They fight in units with air support, artillery, armor. One battle can kill thousands. One war can kill millions. Del's eyes widened further. Millions? Surely that's an exaggeration. The Second Global War on Earth killed somewhere between 70 and 85 million people. That was just one war, and we've had thousands of them throughout our history. The room went silent. Even Iris seemed taken aback by the number. Del recovered first, leaning forward eagerly. But why? What drives humans to such extremes of violence? Vincent shrugged. Same things that drive anyone to violence: resources, territory, ideology, religion, revenge, fear. We just got very, very good at it before we learned how to stop. And have you? Learned to stop? We're trying. Joining the galactic community helped. Hard to fight each other when you realize how small your problems are compared to the universe. But the instinct is still there. The training is still there. You can't erase thousands of years of evolution and culture in a single generation. Del made notes on the recording device, fingers moving rapidly across the interface. Your tattoos suggest you were highly effective in combat. Do you consider yourself a warrior? Vincent thought about that question. He'd been asked it before, usually by therapists or by other soldiers trying to understand their own experiences. I was a soldier. There's a difference. Warriors fight for honor or glory. Soldiers fight because someone ordered them to, because their friends need them to, or because the alternative is worse. I did my job. I followed orders. I survived. That doesn't make me a warrior. It makes me a survivor. Yet you carry reminders of every person you killed. That suggests a deeper philosophy. It suggests guilt, responsibility, acknowledgement. Those people are dead because of choices I made. Fast choices, necessary choices, but choices nonetheless. The least I can do is remember they existed. Iris interrupted. Time is up, archivist. Del stood reluctantly, clearly wanting to ask more questions. Thank you for your candor, Vincent Cole. I will prepare a report for the council. Perhaps it will help them understand. After Del left, Iris studied Vincent with new intensity. The system has been rebooted. You're being released, but with restrictions. You're flagged as a high-risk biological asset. Any aggressive action will result in immediate detention. Any violation of station regulations will result in permanent exile. Are we clear? Crystal clear. One more thing. Your contact canceled your meeting. He saw the security footage and decided he didn't want to work with someone of your reputation. You're free to go, but I suspect you'll find opportunities on this station limited now. Vincent stood and rolled his shoulders, working out the stiffness from sitting in the terrible chair. Story of my life, Commander. As he left the holding room, Vincent noticed the stairs following him through the corridors. Word had spread faster than he'd anticipated. Some aliens moved away as he approached. Others watched with open curiosity or fear. A few nodded with what might have been respect. His communicator blinked with 3 new messages. All job offers. All from people who'd heard about what happened in customs. Maybe his reputation wasn't entirely a bad thing after all. Vincent scrolled through the messages on his communicator while walking back toward the docking bay. 3 job offers, each one more unusual than the last. The first came from a merchant collective offering private security work. Good pay, boring assignments, probably legitimate. The second was from a frontier colony looking for someone to train their militia. Decent pay, Dangerous location, definitely legitimate but high risk. The third message caught his attention. Mr. Cole. Admiral Stone. I command the Vanguard fleet operating in the outer sectors. Your recent customs incident has drawn attention. I believe we should talk. If you're interested in meaningful work, meet me at Military Dock 7 in 2 hours. Come armed if it makes you comfortable. Vincent read the message twice. Admiral Stone was a name he recognized. Human, career military, commanded one of the few mixed-species fleets operating beyond the safe zones. She had a reputation for being tough, fair, and willing to make hard decisions. The invitation intrigued him more than he wanted to admit. He had 90 minutes before the meeting. Enough time to grab food and do some basic research. Vincent found a small restaurant that served human-compatible meals and ordered something that resembled a sandwich. While eating, he used his communicator to pull up information on Admiral Stone and the Vanguard fleet. The file was impressive. Stone had served in the Earth Colonial Marines during the same period as Vincent, though they'd never crossed paths. She'd risen through the ranks quickly, earning a reputation as someone who could work with alien species better than most humans. Her fleet consisted of 12 ships crewed by 7 different species, providing security and rapid response for settlements in the outer sectors. Recent reports showed an increase in pirate activity in the areas the Vanguard fleet protected. Nothing unusual about that. Pirates always tested boundaries looking for weak points. What was unusual was the organization behind the attacks. Someone with resources and planning was coordinating the raids. Vincent finished his meal and headed toward the military section of the station. Security here was even tighter than customs. He showed his credentials to 4 different checkpoints before reaching Dock 7. A human soldier met him at the entrance, young but professional. Mr. Cole, the Admiral is expecting you. Follow me, please. They walked through a boarding tube connecting the station to a military cruiser. The ship's interior was clean and efficient, with crew members moving with purpose through the corridors. Vincent noticed the mix of species working together, each one wearing the same uniform and showing the same discipline. The soldier led him to a conference room near the bridge. Admiral Stone sat at a table reviewing holographic displays. She looked up as Vincent entered, dismissing the displays with a gesture. Vincent Cole. Thank you for coming. Sit. Vincent took a seat across from her. Stone was in her 50s, with gray hair cut short and eyes that had seen too much combat. She studied him the same way he studied her, each one measuring the other. I'll be direct, Stone said. I need someone with your skills and experience. The outer sectors are facing coordinated attacks from an organized enemy. My fleet is stretched thin, and my people, while competent, lack the kind of brutal combat experience that keeps you alive in real warfare. You want me to teach your people how to kill more efficiently. I want you to teach them how to survive. There's a difference. My crews are good at their jobs, but most of them have never faced an enemy willing to massacre civilians to make a point. You have multiple times, according to your file. Vincent leaned back in his chair. What kind of enemy are we talking about? Stone pulled up a new set of holographic displays. Images of destroyed settlements, burnt ships, casualty reports. Pirates, officially. But pirates don't operate with this level of coordination. They don't use military tactics or strategic planning. Intelligence suggests we're dealing with the Red Scale Covenant, a rogue faction of scythes who reject the peace their government signed with the galactic community. Scythes. Like Commander Iris. Iris is loyal to the station and the community. The Red Scale Covenant believes that scythes were meant to be warriors, not diplomats. They see galactic peace as weakness. They've been building their forces for years, recruiting disaffected warriors from multiple species. Now they're making their move. Vincent studied the images. The destruction was thorough and methodical. These weren't random pirate raids. This was warfare with specific objectives. Why haven't the Council sent a proper military fleet to deal with this? Stone's expression hardened. Because the Council doesn't believe the threat is real. They think it's just pirates with better equipment. They've lived in peace for so long that they've forgotten what real war looks like. By the time they realize the truth, dozens more settlements will be destroyed. And you're operating without official support. I have authorization to protect the outer sectors. How I do that is left to my discretion. I'm using that discretion to prepare for something the Council refuses to acknowledge. Vincent appreciated the honesty. Stone wasn't trying to sell him on glory or patriotism. She was offering him a job that needed doing with full knowledge that it might end badly. What exactly do you want from me? Lead a rapid response team. Train them in human combat doctrine. When the red scale makes their next move, I need people who can hit hard and fast. People who understand that sometimes the only way to protect lives is to take them. Can you do that? Vincent thought about his answer. He'd been trying to leave the warrior life behind, to find something that didn't involve violence and death. But Stone was right about one thing. He had experience that could save lives. The question was whether he was willing to return to that world. I have conditions. Name them. I train them my way. No interference. No softening the lessons because someone thinks they're too harsh. If your people can't handle the training, they don't join my team. Agreed. I pick my own team members. I need people who can learn and adapt, not just follow orders. You'll have full access to personnel files. Choose whoever you want, and I want honesty. If this goes bad, if the council decides to hang someone out to dry for operating outside their comfort zone, I walk away clean. No courts-martial, no criminal charges. Stone considered that condition carefully. I can't guarantee political immunity if things go truly sideways, but I can guarantee that any actions taken under my command will be defended as authorized operations. You'll have my full support. Vincent made his decision. Then I'm in. When do we start? Stone smiled, and for the first time, Vincent saw a hint of relief in her expression. Immediately. I'll have quarters prepared for you aboard the fleet's training vessel. We leave for the outer sectors in 48 hours. That gives you 2 days to review personnel files and begin selecting your team. They stood and shook hands. Vincent felt the familiar weight settling onto his shoulders, the responsibility he'd carried for years and thought he'd left behind. But Stone was right about one thing. You could run from what you are, or you could use it to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. As Vincent left the conference room, he passed a viewport showing the vastness of space beyond the station. Somewhere out there, people were dying because no one was willing to fight for them. That was about to change. His communicator blinked with a new message. Personnel files from Stone's fleet, hundreds of them. Vincent started reading as he walked, already making mental notes about who might fit the team he needed to build. The training vessel looked like it had seen better decades. Vincent walked through its corridors, noting the patches, the repaired sections, the signs of constant use and minimal maintenance budget. But the ship was functional, and that was all that mattered. He'd trained soldiers in worse conditions. His quarters were small but private, with a desk, a bed, and a terminal connected to the fleet's database. Vincent spent his first night aboard reviewing personnel files. Stone had given him access to everyone in the Vanguard fleet, over 3,000 individuals across 12 ships. He needed to find the ones who could learn what he had to teach. Most of the files he dismissed quickly. Good soldiers, competent at their jobs, but not what he needed. Vincent was looking for something specific. People who understood that combat wasn't about following procedures. It was about adapting, surviving, and making choices in milliseconds that would haunt you for years. He found his first candidate in the early morning hours. Neil Brooks, human, 24 years old, 2 years of service with the Vanguard fleet. Decorated twice for bravery. Reprimanded once for disobeying orders during an evacuation to save civilians trapped behind enemy lines. The reprimand told Vincent everything he needed to know. Brooks understood priorities. The second candidate was more complicated. Reka, a Scythe warrior who had deserted from the Red Scale Covenant 6 months ago. She'd sought asylum with the Vanguard fleet, claiming she couldn't support the Covenant's increasingly brutal tactics. Commander Iris had vouched for her, and intelligence had verified her information about Red Scale operations. Vincent made a note to interview her personally. If she was genuine, she'd be invaluable. If she wasn't, she'd be dangerous. His third choice was another human. Graves, 36 years old, sniper specialist. His file was heavily redacted, suggesting classified operations that Stone either didn't have clearance to see or had chosen not to include. His confirmed kill count was listed as 63. Vincent recognized a kindred spirit. The fourth candidate surprised him. Prill from the Pale Folk species, the same as Archivist Dell. But where Dell was a scholar, Prill was a combat medic with 5 years of frontline experience. Her file showed exceptional performance under pressure and a stubborn refusal to leave wounded soldiers behind. Vincent had seen too many medics freeze when violence erupted around them. Prill's record suggested she was different. His final choice took longer to find. Orin, a Bastion. The Bastions were a species bred centuries ago for heavy labor. standing nearly 8 feet tall with 4 powerful arms. Most of them worked in construction or cargo handling. Oren had joined the Vanguard fleet as a maintenance technician, but had requested transfer to combat duty 3 times. Each request had been denied because Command couldn't imagine a gentle giant like Oren in combat. Vincent saw potential they'd missed. By the time the ship departed Refuge Station Omega, Vincent had his list. 5 candidates, each one different, each one bringing something unique to the team. Now came the hard part, making them into something more than individuals. The training facility occupied an entire deck of the vessel. Admiral Stone had cleared it for Vincent's exclusive use. The deck included a firing range, a hand-to-hand combat area, simulation rooms, and an obstacle course that could be reconfigured for different scenarios. Vincent's candidates arrived at 0600 hours on their first day. He watched them file in, noting their body language, their attitudes, the way they interacted with each other or didn't. I'm Vincent Cole. For the next 4 weeks, I'm going to train you in human combat doctrine. Some of you will quit. Some of you will fail. Some of you will succeed. By the end, you'll either be ready for what's coming, or you'll be dead weight. Questions? Neil raised his hand. Sir, I've reviewed human combat training protocols. They're considerably more aggressive than standard galactic military training. Can you explain why? Because humans learn to fight against humans. We're the most dangerous thing we've ever encountered. Our training reflects that. Any other questions? Rika spoke up, her voice carrying the slight hiss common to her species. How do you plan to train beings with different physical capabilities? We are not all built the same. I'll teach you principles, not procedures. How you apply them depends on what you're capable of. The enemy won't care about your limitations. Neither will I. Other questions? Silence. Vincent nodded. Good, first lesson starts now. This is a combat simulation. You have 20 minutes to plan and execute a rescue operation. The parameters are simple. 6 civilians trapped in a building. Hostile forces surrounding the area. You need to get them out alive. Begin. He activated the simulation and stepped back. The 5 candidates looked at each other, uncertainty clear on every face. They weren't a team yet. They were strangers thrown together with no chain of command and no established roles. 20 minutes later, the simulation ended. All 6 civilians were dead. 3 of Vincent's candidates were marked as casualties. The mission was a complete failure. Again, Vincent said. They ran the simulation 6 more times that day. Each time, the results improved marginally. By the 6th run, they'd managed to save 2 civilians and only lost 1 team member. Vincent called an end to the day's training. You're thinking like individuals. Every one of you made good decisions for yourself. But this isn't about individual survival. It's about team survival. Until you understand that, you'll keep failing. Dismissed. The next 3 weeks followed the same pattern. Brutal simulations, harsh critiques, constant pressure. Vincent pushed them harder than they'd ever been pushed before. He taught them that hesitation killed, that mercy had its place but survival came first, that the galaxy's rules of warfare were written by people who'd never faced a truly determined enemy. Prill almost quit during the 2nd week. She'd frozen during a live fire exercise, her medical training conflicting with the aggressive tactics Vincent taught. He found her in the mess hall that evening, staring at nothing. I'm not built for this. My people are scholars, not warriors. Vincent sat across from her. Your people also run toward danger when everyone else runs away. That's what medics do. I'm not teaching you to be a killer. I'm teaching you to survive so you can keep saving lives. She stayed. Oren surprised everyone during the 3rd week. In a close-quarters combat scenario, he demonstrated that his 4 arms and massive strength made him devastating in confined spaces. But what impressed Vincent more was his control. Oren could have torn the practice dummies apart. Instead, he disabled them efficiently, using exactly the force necessary and nothing more. You're afraid of hurting people, Vincent said after the exercise. Oren nodded slowly. My strength has always been for building, not destroying. Then build something new. Build a shield for the people who can't protect themselves. Your gentleness is an asset, not a weakness. But when the time comes, you need to be willing to set it aside. By the 4th week, something had changed. The 5 individuals had become a team. They anticipated each other's movements, covered each other's weaknesses, trusted each other to do their jobs. When Vincent ran the original rescue simulation again, they completed it with all 6 civilians saved and 0 casualties. Better, Vincent said. Now you're ready for the real test. Admiral Stone entered the training deck, her expression grim. We have a situation. Red scale forces have been spotted near a colony in the border sectors. Intelligence suggests they're planning a major operation. We're moving to intercept. Vincent looked at his team. They looked back at him with a mix of fear and determination. They weren't perfect. They weren't hardened veterans. But they were ready. Then let's go to work. Rika's hand shook as she reviewed the intelligence reports. Vincent noticed but said nothing. They were aboard a fast transport heading back to Refuge Station Omega, and everyone was dealing with stress in their own way. The target is confirmed, Rika said quietly. The Red Scale Covenant plans to attack during the diplomatic summit. 50 species will have representatives there. If they succeed, it will destabilize the entire outer sector. Admiral Stone had deployed the Vanguard fleet to defend the station, but Vincent's team had a specific mission. Get inside, coordinate with station security, and prepare defensive positions before the attack began. They had 72 hours. That timeline just got cut to 36. New intelligence just came through. Stone's voice crackled over the communication system. Red Scale forces are moving faster than anticipated. They'll reach the station within 2 days. You need to get there first. Vincent gathered his team in the transport's briefing room. Plans change. We arrive in 14 hours. That gives us less than a day to prepare before the attack. Rika, you know their tactics. What should we expect? Rika pulled up a holographic display of Refuge Station Omega. Red Scale uses overwhelming force at multiple entry points. They'll deploy boarding pods here, here, and here. She indicated sections of the station's hull. Their goal will be to breach, establish control points, and push toward the diplomatic quarters. They won't care about civilian casualties. In fact, they'll use them as distractions. Neil studied the display. Station security won't be ready for this. They're trained for individual threats, not coordinated military assault. Which is why we need to work with them, not replace them, Vincent said. Graves, I need you on overwatch. Find positions with clear sightlines to the main corridors leading to the diplomatic quarters. Prill, coordinate with the station's medical facilities. When this starts, there will be casualties. Oren, you're our mobile defense. You go where the line is weakest. Neil, you're with me. We'll set up a command position and direct the defense. And me? Rika asked. You're our early warning system. You know how they think, how they operate. You'll spot their tactics before anyone else. But Rika, if you have any doubts, any hesitation about fighting your former comrades, tell me now. Rika's eyes hardened. I left because I couldn't support what they became. I won't hesitate. The transport docked at Refuge Station Omega 16 hours later. Vincent immediately contacted Commander Iris. She met them at the military dock, her expression grave. Admiral Stone briefed me on the threat. Station security is preparing, but we've never faced anything like this. My people are good at maintaining order, not fighting wars. Then we'll teach them quickly. I need access to your security network, deployment schedules, and defensive systems. We have less than 20 hours. Iris hesitated only a moment before agreeing. She led them to the station's security command center, a multi-level room filled with displays showing every section of the massive facility. Vincent spent the next hour reviewing the station's defenses. They were impressive for peacetime security, but woefully inadequate for military assault. The station had shields designed to stop debris and small ships, not military-grade boarding pods. Its security forces carried non-lethal weapons meant for crowd control, not combat rifles designed to kill. We need to evacuate non-essential personnel, Vincent said. Get civilians into the protected inner sections. Seal off corridors leading to the diplomatic quarters. Position your armed security forces here, here, and here. These are choke points where we can control the flow of the battle. Iris transmitted the orders. Throughout the station, alarms began to sound. Evacuation protocols activated. Thousands of civilians started moving toward designated safe zones. It was organized chaos, but it was necessary. Graves disappeared to scout sniper positions. Prill coordinated with the medical staff, preparing triage centers in multiple locations. Oren worked with station maintenance to reinforce key bulkheads and seal non-essential passages. Rika reviewed the station's sensor logs, looking for any sign of Red Scale scouts or advance units. Neil stayed with Vincent, learning to coordinate a defense across multiple fronts. The young soldier absorbed information quickly. Asking smart questions and making connections Vincent didn't have to explain. Sir, if they breach here and here simultaneously, we'll have to split our forces. That puts us at a disadvantage. That's their plan. They want us divided, reacting instead of acting. So we don't split evenly. We make a choice about what's most important and we commit to it. The diplomatic quarters are the primary target. Everything else is secondary. What about civilian casualties in the secondary zones? We minimize them. But if we have to choose between losing civilians in a secondary zone or losing the entire station because we spread too thin, we make the hard choice. That's command, Neil. It's about accepting that you can't save everyone. 18 hours passed. The station was as ready as it could be. Civilians huddled in protected zones. Security forces manned defensive positions. Medical teams stood ready. Vincent's team took their assigned positions. Then the sensors screamed warnings. Red scale ships emerged from FTL at the edge of sensor range. 20 vessels, all military grade. They didn't bother with demands or negotiations. They simply launched boarding pods and accelerated toward the station. "Here we go," Vincent said into the communications network. "All teams, weapons free. Remember your training. Stay calm, watch your sectors. Don't be heroes." The first boarding pods hit the station's hull like hammers. Cutting torches burned through reinforced metal. Airlocks sealed automatically, containing the breaches. Then the red-scale warriors poured through. Graves fired first, his sniper rifle dropping a red-scale commander before he'd taken 3 steps from his boarding pod. First breach contained. Second breach opening now. I count 20 hostiles. Station security opened fire. Their weapons were less lethal than the Red Scale's military hardware, but they made up for it with superior positioning. The first wave of attackers found themselves caught in crossfire, unable to advance without heavy casualties. "They're probing," Rika's voice came through the communications. "Testing our defenses." The real assault hasn't started yet. She was right. 3 more boarding pods hit different sections of the station, forcing security teams to reposition. Then the main assault began. 50 boarding pods launched simultaneously, targeting weak points across the station's structure. Vincent watched the tactical display light up with red markers. His careful defensive plan was being tested from a dozen directions at once. "All teams, hold your positions. Do not chase them into the corridors. Make them come to us." Oran's section came under heavy assault. Vincent watched through security cameras as the massive bastion held a corridor intersection against 12 red-scale warriors. His 4 arms worked in coordinated patterns, using a combination of shields and melee weapons to create an impenetrable barrier. When 2 attackers tried to flank him, he grabbed both with his lower arms and threw them back into their comrades. Orin status? Holding. They're not getting through here. Prill's medical team was already busy, casualties mounted on both sides. Station security personnel weren't trained for this level of combat, and it showed. But they were brave, and they learned quickly from their mistakes. Neil coordinated reinforcements, moving security teams to threatened positions while maintaining the defensive perimeter. Vincent realized the young soldier had a natural talent for tactical thinking. Then Rika's voice cut through the communications with urgency. "Vincent, we have a problem. Elite unit just breached near the command center. 20 warriors, all veterans. They're coming for you." Vincent checked his weapons and looked at Neil. "Time to see if our training sticks. Stay behind cover. Watch your angles. And remember, they want us alive for interrogation. Use that against them." The door to the command center exploded inward. Red-scale warriors flooded through, their weapons sweeping the room. Vincent and Neil were ready, using the command consoles as cover and firing from positions that forced the attackers to expose themselves. The fight was brutal and close. Vincent dropped 3 attackers in the first 10 seconds. Neil wounded 2 more. But the red scale kept coming, disciplined and experienced. Then their leader stepped through the smoke and chaos. He was larger than the other scythes, his scales marked with scars and his armor decorated with kill markers. He looked directly at Vincent and smiled. "You're the human who broke the scanner. I'm War Chief Slade. I've been looking forward to meeting you." War Chief Slade moved like liquid violence. Vincent barely had time to dodge the first strike, a clawed hand that would have taken his head off. He rolled behind a console as the scythe leader's second attack shattered the display screen where Vincent had been standing. "Neil, get out of here. Coordinate the defense from secondary command." "Sir, I can't leave you." "That's an order. Go." Neil hesitated for only a second before retreating through the side corridor. Slade's warriors moved to follow, but Slade stopped them with a gesture. "Let him go. This one is mine." Vincent used the moment to assess his opponent. Slade was bigger than most scythes, enhanced with military-grade augments that showed as subtle bulges under his armor. His movements were precise, practiced, lethal. This wasn't someone who relied on strength alone. He was a trained warrior with decades of experience. "Your reputation intrigues me," Slade said, circling the command center. 347 kills. Impressive for a human. But I wonder how many of those were worthy opponents. How many were soldiers as trained as you? Or were they just targets? Vincent didn't respond. He was calculating angles, distances, looking for anything he could use as a weapon or advantage. His sidearm was empty. His backup weapon was across the room. All he had was experience and the knowledge that Slade wanted him alive for questioning. "Your people are soft," Slade continued. "You've forgotten what it means to be warriors. You hide behind technology and treaties, pretending that strength doesn't matter anymore. But it does. It always will. You're wrong." Vincent moved suddenly, not attacking but repositioning to a better defensive position. Slade tracked the movement but didn't strike. "We haven't forgotten. We learned what strength really means. It's not about how many you can kill. It's about what you're willing to die protecting." Slade laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the damaged command center. Philosophy from a killer. How human. But words don't matter in combat. Only victory. He attacked again, faster this time. Vincent blocked the first strike with a broken piece of console, the impact jarring his arms. The second strike he dodged by dropping low and rolling. The third strike he couldn't avoid completely. Claws raked across his shoulder, drawing blood. Pain focused Vincent's mind. He stopped retreating and went on the offensive. His fighting style was nothing elegant or honorable. It was brutal, efficient, designed to end fights quickly. He went for weak points, used improvised weapons, fought dirty in every way his decades of combat experience had taught him. Slade adapted quickly, countering Vincent's techniques with his own ruthless efficiency. They crashed through the command center, destroying equipment, leaving blood on every surface. Vincent was outmatched in strength and speed, but he had something Slade didn't. He'd fought people just as deadly as himself for years. He knew how to survive against superior opponents. Meanwhile, throughout the station, the battle raged. Graves continued picking off Red-Scale commanders, disrupting their coordination. Oren held his position against overwhelming numbers, his gentle nature completely submerged under protective fury. Prill moved through the chaos, saving lives while dodging firefights. And Rika faced something she'd been dreading. 3 of her former unit mates had breached near her position. They recognized her immediately. "Traitor," one of them hissed. "You abandoned your people." "I abandoned what we became," Rika responded, her weapon steady. "We were warriors. Now we're just murderers." They attacked together, trying to overwhelm her with coordinated strikes. But Rika had trained with Vincent for 4 weeks. She'd learned tactics her former comrades had never imagined. She moved like water, used their coordination against them, turned their strengths into weaknesses. When the fight ended, all 3 of her former unit mates were down. Rika stood over them, bleeding from multiple wounds, tears mixing with blood on her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm sorry we lost our way." Neil had made it to secondary command and was coordinating the defense with surprising skill. He'd learned to think like Vincent, to prioritize objectives over emotion, to make hard choices quickly. Station security was holding, but barely. "All teams, the diplomatic wing is secure. Reinforcements are moving to breach points 3 and 5. Hold your positions for another 10 minutes. Back in the primary command center, Vincent and Slade continued their brutal dance. Vincent was slowing down, blood loss and fatigue taking their toll. Slade had wounds too, but his augments kept him functioning at peak capacity. "You're dying, human. But you keep fighting. Why?" Vincent spat blood and smiled. "Because people are counting on me. Because giving up isn't an option. Because I learned a long time ago that the only way to honor the dead is to protect the living." He attacked one final time, not trying to win, but trying to create an opening. Slade saw through the technique and countered perfectly. His clawed hand closed around Vincent's throat, lifting him off the ground. Brave, foolish, very human. The door exploded inward for the second time. Oren charged through, his massive frame filling the entrance. He'd abandoned his position to save Vincent, and he moved with single-minded purpose. Slade turned to face the new threat, dropping Vincent to engage. But Oren wasn't alone. Behind him came Graves, Prill, Neil, and Rika. Vincent's entire team abandoning their positions to save him. "Idiots," Vincent gasped, but he was smiling. "I told you to hold your positions." And you taught us that sometimes the mission changes, Neil responded. Right now, the mission is keeping you alive. Slade looked at the team facing him, calculated the odds, and made his decision. Withdraw. We've accomplished enough. His warriors retreated quickly, using smoke grenades and suppression fire to cover their escape. Within minutes, the Red Scale forces were gone, leaving behind casualties and chaos. Vincent tried to stand and immediately fell. Prill was there instantly, her medical scanner working. You're an idiot. You've lost too much blood and you might have internal bleeding. Stop moving. Station security swept through the damaged sections, securing the area. Commander Iris arrived with medical teams and reinforcements. She looked at Vincent's team, then at the destroyed command center, then at the bodies of Red Scale warriors scattered throughout the station. You saved us. The diplomatic summit is safe. The casualties were significant, but without your preparations, we would have lost everything. Vincent nodded weakly. How many did we lose? 14 station security personnel. 37 wounded. Could have been thousands. Later, after medical treatment and debriefing, Vincent sat in a recovery room with his team. They'd all survived, though they bore new scars. Oren had taken a blast to his side that would have killed a smaller being. Graves had a broken arm from a close-quarters fight. Rika's wounds were mostly healed, but her emotional scars would take longer. Prill was exhausted from hours of emergency surgery. Neil had a cut across his face that would leave a permanent mark. You disobeyed orders, Vincent said. All of you abandoned your positions to save me. You taught us that teams survive together, Neil responded. We made a choice. Vincent wanted to be angry, but he couldn't. They'd saved his life and learned the most important lesson he could teach. Sometimes the mission changes. Sometimes survival is about making the hard choice to save each other instead of following the plan. Admiral Stone visited the next day. The diplomatic summit had proceeded with increased security. The Red Scale Covenant's attack had failed completely, and their ships had retreated to regroup. The Council has finally acknowledged the threat, Stone said. They're sending proper military support to the outer sectors. It's over for now. For now, Vincent agreed. But they'll be back, and we'll be ready. Your team performed beyond expectations. I'm offering all of you permanent positions with the Vanguard fleet. Full combat status, better pay, actual support. Vincent looked at his team. They looked back at him with expressions that said they'd already made their decision. We accept. But we stay together. This team works because we trust each other. Agreed. Weeks later, Vincent stood in his quarters aboard the training vessel, looking at his reflection. New scars added to the collection. His body was a map of violence, each mark telling a story. But for the first time in years, the ghosts felt quieter. His communicator chimed. A message from Neil thanking him for everything he'd taught them. Another message from Prill asking about proper aftercare for combat wounds. A third from Oren describing a peaceful garden he'd visited during shore leave. Vincent smiled. He'd come to Refuge Station Omega looking for a job. He'd found something better, purpose, a team, maybe even redemption. The station had updated their scanning systems with a new classification for human veterans. When Vincent passed through customs now, the system displayed a simple message. Human veteran. Approach with respect. Archivist Dell had published his paper on human military history. It was spreading through academic circles, helping other species understand humanity's complex relationship with violence. Some feared humans more after reading it. Others respected them. A few understood what Vincent had been trying to teach all along. Humanity's capacity for violence wasn't something to fear. It was something to be grateful for when it was directed by people willing to protect instead of destroy. Vincent pulled up the tactical reports from the battle. 14 dead. It was a number that would join all the others. Another weight to carry. But this time was different. Those 14 had died protecting thousands. Their sacrifice meant something. He traced one of his tattoos, then opened a new file on his terminal. Time to update his records. New conflicts. New choices. New people to remember. But also new reasons to keep fighting, new people to protect. New hope that maybe the violence could serve a purpose beyond itself. Outside his viewport, the stars stretched endlessly in all directions. Somewhere out there, the Red Scale Covenant was regrouping. Somewhere out there, more threats waited. But Vincent wasn't worried. He had a team now. He had a mission. And for the first time in years, he had a reason to believe that all the violence in his past might lead to something better in the future.